Why would a woman spend hours perfecting a pumpkin pie, knowing the invitation to her sister's grand Thanksgiving was more a formality than a welcome? I asked myself that question as I smoothed the crust's edges, my fingers trembling with a hope I couldn't quite name. I'm Amelia Brooks, 35, a single mother of two, and every year I convinced myself this holiday would be different. But as I stood in the flickering glow of a laundry room, my children's eyes searching mine for answers, I realized some doors don't open, no matter how hard you knock. The day began with a brittle November chill, the kind that seeps into your bones and lingers. I'd spent the evening before in our cramped Brooklyn apartment, 5 miles from Manhattan, measuring cinnamon and nutmeg with a precision that felt like defiance. My cousin Julia's compliment on last year's pie echoed in my mind, a rare warmth in a family that rarely saw me. Josh, my 12-year-old son, watched me work, his quiet gaze steady, while Lily, my 9-year-old daughter, twirled in her best dress, clutching the pie box like a treasure. The invitation to my sister Rebecca's mansion in North Salem, 30 miles north, was a courtesy I couldn't refuse. Not for my kids, who deserved a holiday that sparkled like the ones in storybooks. We arrived right on time, the iron fence of Rebecca's suburban palace twinkling with lights, wreaths gleaming in every window. Josh's hand tightened in mine, and Lily held the pie box with both arms, her steps careful on the gravel path. Rebecca opened the door, her wine-colored velvet dress catching the chandelier's glow, her smile as polished as the marble floor. "Amelia, you came," she said, her voice a practiced lilt. I leaned for a hug, but she stepped back, her eyes flicking to the pie. "I told you not to bring anything. Pumpkin pie, let's hope it's not too sweet." She turned, her heels clicking, leaving us at the threshold. Inside, the air hummed with laughter, the scent of turkey and cinnamon swirling. Guests in tailored suits and glittering dresses filled a magazine-worthy dining table, their voices a chorus of ease. We stood by the door, shadows among strangers who shared my blood. No one greeted us, no one offered a seat. I kept smiling, the kind of smile I'd worn for years, and guided Lily to the kitchen counter to set down the pie. Josh helped her with her coat, his jaw tight. Lily tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, why isn't anyone saying hi?" I knelt, tying her shoelace, my throat catching. "They're just busy, sweetheart," I said, the lie soft as a prayer. Rebecca returned, her phone glowing in her hand. "I checked the seating chart," she said, not meeting my eyes. "It's tight, Amelia." "You don't mind the side room, do you? There's a table in the laundry room. It's clean." My breath hitched. "The laundry room?" "It's quiet," she added, winking. "Better for the kids than squeezing in with the adults." Josh's grip on my hand tightened. Lily's gaze dropped to her shoes. I nodded faintly, picked up the pie, and followed her directions past the back door. The laundry room was exactly that. A washer humming, a small wooden table shoved against the wall, 2 folding chairs, and a tiny plastic kid's chair. No tablecloth, no candles, just a fluorescent bulb buzzing overhead. I set the pie down, my hands steady despite the ache in my chest. Josh sat silently, his eyes on the wall. Lily climbed onto the plastic chair, her small hand resting on her knee. I opened the pie box and cut 3 slices, the knife's scrape loud in the quiet. No one spoke. Laughter from the dining room pierced the air, each burst a needle in my composure. My throat tightened as Lily whispered, "Why doesn't Aunt Rebecca want us with everyone?" I smiled again, the same tired mask. "It's not that, honey. They just don't understand." Josh looked at me, his voice low. "Maybe next year we shouldn't come, Mom." I didn't answer, my eyes on my children, one still grappling with rejection, the other pretending it didn't sting. I poured water into 3 plastic cups, raising mine like we were in a fine restaurant. "Happy Thanksgiving, babies," I said. "Wherever we are, as long as we're together, that's enough." Lily's lips curved, a small spark. Josh lifted his cup, his eyes softening. Under the cold light with the washer's hum as our soundtrack, I felt a quiet resolve. This wasn't a holiday, it was a lesson. One day I'd show them, not with anger, but with my worth. The pie sat mostly untouched, its sweetness a silent rebuke to a family that didn't care to taste it. As the fluorescent hum of the laundry room dulled my senses, a sharp screech of tires snapped me upright. Who would pull up to the back of Rebecca's pristine North Salem mansion, 30 miles from the city's pulse, in the middle of Thanksgiving? My children's eyes widened, and I felt a prickle of curiosity. Or was it hope? That something, anything, might shift the weight of this night. I'm Amelia Brooks, 35, and in that moment, I had no idea the world was about to crack open. Josh leaned toward the tiny window above the washer, his breath fogging the frosted glass. "Mom, that car," he whispered, his voice taut with wonder. I stood beside him, peering out as headlights swept across the wall, pinning us in their glow. A long, sleek limousine, black as midnight, eased onto the gravel path leading to the backyard. Not a neighbor's SUV, not a delivery van, a limousine, its presence as out of place as we were. Lily sat up straighter, her small hands clutching her dress. "Mommy, someone's coming," she said, her voice a mix of fear and fascination. A man in a tailored black suit, white gloves pristine, stepped out and opened the back door with a practiced grace. A woman emerged, her slate blue wool coat catching the moonlight, her silver hair pinned neatly under a scarf that carried a faint whiff of jasmine. Her heels clicked softly on the gravel, each step deliberate, her face etched with the calm of a life fully lived. She scanned the yard, her gaze landing precisely on our window. Lily whispered, "She's looking at us." My heart thudded, and I cracked the back door open, a rush of cold air stinging my cheeks. "Hello," the woman said, her voice clear, confident, cutting through the night. "I'm looking for Amelia Brooks." I froze, my hand gripping the doorframe. "That's me," I managed, my voice thinner than I intended. She smiled, slow and deliberate, like she'd found exactly what she sought. "Good. I'm Evelyn Rhodes, Executive Director of Voices Rising, a foundation for single mothers and women pushed to the margins." She stepped closer, her eyes flicking to the laundry room's stark interior. "I didn't expect to find you here." My cheeks burned, not from shame but from the surreal weight of her words. "I didn't expect to be found in a laundry room," I said, attempting a laugh that came out as a cough. Josh squeezed my hand, grounding me. Evelyn's smile deepened. "I'm here because of a story you shared last year on a community forum about rebuilding your life after a shelter." My breath caught. That post, I'd typed it on my cracked phone at 2 a.m., Josh feverish, Lily asleep on our sagging couch. It was a raw outpouring, not meant for eyes like hers. "It spread through our network," she continued. "We've been searching for you for 6 months. Your name surfaced on an old volunteer registry, and I came myself." She stood taller, her presence filling the cramped space. "I'm inviting you to be the keynote speaker at Voices Rising's spring conference, to share your story, no filters, just truth. We'd also like to publish it as a book, with you in full control. You'll be paid fairly, in dollars, for both." My mind reeled. Me, a speaker? A writer? At 35, I was just a mom scraping by, my worth measured in late-night shifts and discounted groceries. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "I'm no one special." Evelyn's eyes softened, but her tone was firm. "That's exactly why we need you, Amelia. We don't want polished success stories. We want real, brave women who keep moving forward." Josh looked up at me, his eyes bright. "You'll do it, right, Mom?" Lily's small nod echoed his faith. I swallowed hard, the weight of their belief heavier than my doubt. "Yes," I said, the word foreign on my tongue. "I will." Evelyn nodded, a spark of approval in her gaze. "The car's waiting. We can discuss more over dinner if you're ready." I glanced at the folding table, the half-eaten pie and the plastic cups. "Let me grab my coat," I said, but Evelyn waved a hand. "No need. We'll take care of you from here." I took Josh and Lily's hands, their warmth steadying me as we stepped into the cold. The limousine's door loomed, a threshold to something I couldn't yet name. As we crossed the gravel, I felt the laundry room's hum fade, replaced by a quiet pulse of possibility. As I stood on the gravel outside Rebecca's mansion, 30 miles from Manhattan's hum, Evelyn Rhodes's words echoed in my mind. A keynote speaker, a book, a chance to be seen. I'm Amelia Brooks, 35, and with my children's hands in mine, I crossed a threshold, not just from a backyard to a car, but from invisibility to a world that might finally hear me. The limousine's door shut with a soft thud, sealing us from the Thanksgiving laughter that had stung like salt. Josh sat beside me, his fingers brushing the pie box he'd insisted on bringing, while Lily leaned against my shoulder, her wide eyes tracing the car's softly lit ceiling. Outside, Rebecca's twinkling fence faded into the dark, a memory I was ready to leave behind. Evelyn sat across from us, her slate blue coat folded neatly, her smile warm through the divider window. "I know this feels sudden, Amelia," she said, her voice low and steady, "but I've wanted to meet you for a long time." I turned to her, my hands clasped to still their tremble. "You said you found me because of a post." Evelyn nodded, her eyes glinting with something like reverence. "Not just one. A series you wrote over 6 months after leaving your ex-husband. You described working night shifts at a diner for $10 an hour, stretching $3 of gas to get home, turning instant noodles into a living room party for your kids. I read every word and wept. My cheeks flushed, not with embarrassment but with the weight of being seen. Those posts were my midnight confessions, tapped out on a wooden chair in our Brooklyn apartment, 5 miles from the city's heart, when the world slept and my kids dreamed. I never imagined they'd reach someone like Evelyn, executive director of Voices Rising. She leaned forward, her emerald ring catching the light. One line stayed with me. "I don't want my kids to toughen up to survive. I want them to know they deserve to dream." "That's why you're here." I clenched my hands, steadying my voice. "I wrote to keep from breaking," I admitted. "That's what makes it powerful," Evelyn replied. "Our spring summit in Chicago, 800 miles from here, will bring together activists, writers, and single mothers. We need someone to open it with a heart, not credentials. That's you." I glanced at Josh, who stared out the window, his hand resting on Lily's shoulder. Lily nodded softly, as if sensing a tide turning. "I've never spoken to a crowd," I said quietly. "I'm not polished." Evelyn placed a hand on her chest. "Polish doesn't move people, Amelia. Truth does." I stayed silent, the limousine gliding through the night, carrying us 10 miles to a restaurant tucked in a quiet corner of Westchester. The driver opened the door, and I stepped out with my children, the air sharp with the promise of snow. The restaurant glowed with warm yellow lights, the scent of fresh bread wrapping around us. We were led to a private room, where a polished table held a customized menu and a thin folder with my name in bold, Amelia Brooks. Evelyn gestured to it. "A preliminary contract. We'll cover everything, flights to Chicago, hotel, meals, childcare, so you can focus on your story." I opened the folder, my breath catching at the words, "Keynote Speaker, Voices Rising, Spring Summit 2026. My struggles, shelter nights, food lines, 2 a.m. doubts, had woven a path to this moment. At 35, I'd thought those years left only scars, but they'd built a bridge instead. Josh reached over, setting the pie box aside, his small gesture easing a weight I hadn't named. Lily rested her head on my shoulder, whispering, "Mom, they chose you because you're you." Tears stung my eyes, but I smiled, the first real smile of the night. Evelyn raised her glass of water, her gaze steady. "I believe in you, Amelia. It's time you believe in yourself." I nodded, the contract's weight grounding me. For the first time, I wasn't Rebecca's sister or a divorced mom scraping by. I was Amelia, a woman whose words had carved a place in the world, ready to step into it. Months after Evelyn Rhodes pulled me from a laundry room's shadows into a limousine's promise, I stood backstage at a Chicago conference center, 800 miles from my Brooklyn apartment. I'm Amelia Brooks, 35, clutching a speech marked with my daughter's sticky notes, my heart pounding with a fear that felt like falling, and a hope that felt like flying. The Voices Rising Spring Summit was a world apart from Rebecca's North Salem mansion, 30 miles from Manhattan's glow. No chandeliers or velvet dresses here, just a stage bathed in soft white light and rows of women, some in tailored suits, others in worn jeans, waiting to hear a story I still couldn't believe was mine. Josh sat in the front row, his new shirt making him look older than 12, his eyes steady with pride. Lily gripped the conference program beside him, her curls bouncing as she waved, her smile a small anchor. I smoothed my dress, bought with my first advance from Voices Rising, and took a breath that tasted of nerves and resolve. The MC's voice cut through the hum. Amelia Brooks, keynote speaker. My spine tingled, electric, as I stepped onto the stage, the click of my heels swallowed by silence. Hundreds of faces looked up, their eyes open, expectant, not judging. I set my speech on the podium but barely glanced at it. Last Thanksgiving, I began, my voice steadier than I felt. I sat in my sister's laundry room, 30 miles from here, with my kids, eating pie on a folding table while laughter echoed from a room we weren't invited to. The words spilled out, raw and unpolished, tracing years in a 2-bedroom apartment where I worked double shifts at a diner for $10 an hour, stood in food lines with a shame that burned, and blogged at midnight to hold my heart together. I spoke of Josh, who learned to microwave dinners at 10, and Lily, who drew pictures to make our bare walls home. I didn't shy from the nights I cried in the dark, counting $5 in coins for milk, or the shelter days when I felt like a ghost in my own life. But I also shared the moment I stepped into Evelyn's limousine, my children's hands in mine, knowing I'd left a past that didn't value me. I used to think I needed permission to matter, I said, my voice rising. But that laundry room taught me, sometimes you have to build your table. The room held its breath, then erupted. One clap became 2, then a wave, so loud it shook me. Women stood, first 1, then 10, then the entire auditorium, their applause a tide that lifted me. Tears pricked my eyes, but I stood taller, letting their warmth wash over me. After the speech, I stepped into a crowd that didn't feel like strangers. A woman with tired eyes grasped my hand, her voice thick. I lived in my car with my toddlers. Your story made me believe I can start again. Another, her scarf knotted tightly, said she'd left a marriage that choked her spirit. You made me feel seen, she whispered. A retired teacher, her hands trembling, told me she'd felt invisible until today. Thank you for saying what I've always felt, she said, her words a mirror to my own heart. For 2 hours I listened, their stories weaving into mine, mothers who'd lost homes, daughters who'd lost hope, women who'd found both again. Each handshake, each tear, built a bridge I hadn't known I could cross. Josh and Lily joined me, their faces glowing, Lily tugging my sleeve to whisper, Mom, you were amazing. Josh just nodded, his quiet pride louder than the applause. As we left the stage, I glanced back at the podium, the sticky notes fluttering like tiny flags. At 35, I thought my voice was too small, my story too ordinary. But in that Chicago hall, 800 miles from the laundry room's hum, I saw the truth. My words weren't just mine anymore. They were theirs too, a spark for anyone who'd ever been pushed aside. I held my children's hands, knowing this moment wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a stage I was ready to claim. After my speech in Chicago, 800 miles from the laundry room where I'd once sat unseen, my life began to unfold like a map I hadn't dared to read. I'm Amelia Brooks, 35, and in the year following that stage, I built a home, not just of walls, but of purpose, culminating in a Thanksgiving that redefined family. The release of my memoir, More Than Enough, felt like a quiet earthquake. Its cover, a black and white photo of me, Josh, and Lily crossing a Manhattan street, hands linked, captured our journey through chaos to clarity. I held the first copy in our new apartment, 5 miles from our old Brooklyn walk-up, its walls still bare but alive with possibility. Readers' messages poured in, each one a thread in a tapestry I hadn't known I was weaving. One email stopped me cold. I thought my worth depended on others' approval. Your book showed me it's rising after being pushed aside. I sat in silence, tears falling, knowing my words had touched a stranger's heart. Evelyn Rhodes's, ever the visionary, called from her office in New York, her voice warm with plans. Amelia, the publisher in Boston loves your memoir. They want an audiobook, your voice, no one else's. And a local TV station is interested in your story. We'll cover all costs, flights, hotels, everything in dollars. I laughed, the sound foreign. This is real, isn't it? Josh, overhearing, grinned from the couch. Mom, it's better than real. Lily nodded, her curls bouncing. You're going to be on TV. At 35, I was no longer the woman who counted coins for milk. I was a storyteller, my voice a beacon for others. A year after that fateful Thanksgiving, I hosted my own in our Brooklyn apartment, 3 miles from Manhattan's skyline. No crystal chandeliers like Rebecca's, just a warm kitchen where the scent of roasting turkey mingled with pumpkin pie. Josh mashed potatoes with a focus that made me smile, while Lily crafted thank you cards, each adorned with leaf stickers and sparkly ink that read, "Thank you for being my real family." 8 of us gathered, me, my children, Evelyn, friends Dana and Carla from the conference, and neighbors Walter and Ruby, who'd once lent me a pan when I had nothing. Evelyn arrived with pumpkin soup, her quiet grace making everyone feel valued. This is my first Thanksgiving away from the office party, she said, setting the pot down. This is where I belong. I tied an apron around her, teasing, You're my sous chef today. Laughter spilled through the room, soft jazz playing as Lily fussed over fork placement. Our round table was too small for all the dishes, so we stacked some on a bookshelf, but no one minded. Walter shared how he met Ruby at a library. Carla spoke of her work with single mothers, and Dina beamed about her new baking course. Lily stood, clutching a folded paper, her voice clear. I have a speech. The room chuckled, but she read with conviction. Last year, I ate in a laundry room and didn't understand why. This year, I know that place led us here, to our real home. My hand covered my mouth, tears slipping free. Josh stood, his voice steady. Mom, we're proud of you. Thank you for never giving up. I raised my apple cider, my voice trembling. I thought family was fixed, but it's the people who choose to love you every day. This is my family. After dinner, Josh played my conference speech on his tablet, and I didn't stop him. That voice, mine, spoke with a strength I'd once doubted. Later, my phone pinged with my mother's annual message. Hope you're okay. Happy Thanksgiving. I didn't reply, my eyes on Lily's card still on the table, the crumbs of our meal a testament to love. At 35, I'd built a life where I wasn't an afterthought, but the center, surrounded by a family that saw me. A year after hosting my own Thanksgiving in Brooklyn, 3 miles from Manhattan's Pulse, I found myself in Chicago again, 800 miles from home, invited as a guest of honor at the National Women's Conference. I'm Amelia Brooks, 35, and as I walked into an auditorium filled with women who'd heard my story, I carried a truth. Sometimes being pushed aside is where your real journey begins. The conference, held in a sleek new art center, buzzed with energy. I wore a soft gray suit designed by my friend Carla, its clean lines a quiet nod to my growth. Pinned to my lapel was a wooden table brooch, symbolizing Build Your Table, a project Evelyn and I launched to help women forge careers from the ground up. No nerves gripped me this time, only a calm certainty. I wasn't here to seek approval, but to share a space with others who'd turned rejection into strength. I joined a round table with 6 women, each a testament to resilience. Marcy, a retired teacher, spoke first, her voice steady. Your speech last year pushed me to volunteer at a skills center for single mothers. I thought I had nothing left to give, but I learned worth isn't in titles. It's in making someone feel seen. Shonda, a mother of 3, shared how she'd once been homeless but now ran a bakery near her kids' school. You said we don't need to beg for seats, so I saved pennies, revived my grandma's recipes, and built my place. Their stories, raw and radiant, filled me with a pride that wasn't mine alone. It belonged to every woman who dared to rise. When my turn came, I stood, leaving my notes untouched. The faces before me, hopeful, weathered, fierce, deserved more than a script. I used to stand behind closed doors, I began, my voice clear, thinking I had to be quieter, smarter, less of a burden to earn a seat. But I learned something in that laundry room, 30 miles from Manhattan. People don't always reject you because you're lacking. They reject you because they can't see your value. That's not your flaw, it's their limit. I paused, letting the words settle. So, build your table. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. The room was still, not from indifference, but from connection. Evelyn, in the audience, her eyes glistening, gave a small nod. Josh, taller now in the third row, watched with a quiet intensity. Lily waved, her lips tight to hold back tears. That laundry room wasn't the end, I continued. It was where I stopped waiting to be seen and started believing I already mattered. Applause came softly, then grew, a warm current binding us. These women weren't just listeners. They were proof that one voice can spark 1,000 others. Afterward, we exchanged cards and promises to keep building tables together. Back in my hotel room, I opened my laptop, the city's lights glinting through the window. My fingers hovered, then typed the first line of my second book. Not everyone needs a seat. Some of us are meant to have a stage. I caught my reflection in the screen, not the woman who once shrank under fluorescent lights, but one who stood at the center, her voice a thread in a vast tapestry. At 35, I'd learned that being pushed to the margins isn't failure. It's the spark that lights your way. My journey, from a North Salem laundry room to a Chicago stage, showed me that worth doesn't wait for permission. It grows in the quiet moments when you choose yourself. As I closed my laptop, I knew this wasn't the end but a beginning. For me, for the women I'd met, for anyone ready to claim their stage. The world opens when you stop knocking and start building, and that, I've learned, is more than enough.